You know those stories where every single headline seems to contradict the last? Well, that's exactly what it feels like trying to follow the supposed peace deal between the United States and Iran. One minute, a deal is on. The next, it's totally off the table. So what is really going on here? Let's try to cut through all that noise and figure out what's happening behind the curtain in these really high-stakes negotiations.
Right at the center of all this confusion is this so-called 10-point peace plan from Iran. But here's the thing. Nobody, and I mean nobody, seems to have a clue what's actually in it. Every source you check tells a different story.
And this slide just lays out the chaos perfectly. On one hand, you hear a demand that sounds, kind of reasonable. Iran promises to stop enriching uranium. But then, supposedly from the same plan, you get this other demand. The U.S. has to abandon all of its military bases in the entire Middle East. One of those sounds like a starting point for a conversation. The other is a total non-starter. So which is it? The source material we're looking at here really nails it with this analogy. It's like that Spider-Man meme, where they're all just pointing at each other. You'll have one Iranian official hinting that, yeah, talks are happening, and then literally hours later, another one comes out and denies everything. This has been going on for weeks, and it leaves everyone wondering, who is actually in charge over there? Who is speaking for Iran?
But here's the thing. This confusion might not be as random as it looks. There's a theory that explains it all, and it actually comes from a pretty wild place. The Tom Cruise movie Valkyrie, about the plot to kill Hitler. Believe it or not, that analogy is the key to understanding the deep internal power struggle that's going on inside Iran's leadership right now.
And this is really the heart of the theory. The source argues that we're not hearing one peace plan from Iran, we're hearing 3 different peace plans. And this isn't some clever 4D chess negotiating tactic. It's a symptom of a deeply divided government, where different groups are fighting for control and nobody really knows who's going to come out on top. So let's break down these groups, just like in that Valkyrie movie analogy. First up, you've got the dealmakers. These are the folks who genuinely want to find some kind of peaceful way forward with the West. Then, you've got the hardliners, probably with the powerful IRGC in the mix, who think any negotiation is just a sign of weakness. And finally, you have the undecideds, who are just sitting on the sidelines, waiting to see which way the wind blows before they pick a side. So this Valkyrie theory is basically our key to unlocking the whole mystery of this phantom peace plan. It suggests that all these conflicting messages we're hearing, they're not just diplomatic noise. They're basically the echoes of an internal war for the future of Iran. And that's exactly why trying to have a real negotiation right now is so incredibly difficult. All right, so let's shift gears a bit. We've talked about the complete fog coming from Iran's side. Now let's look at the other side of the table. Because while Iran's plan is a total mystery, the U.S. position has been made crystal clear. And the contrast is, well, it's night and day. The Trump administration put out a 15-point plan that's been publicly documented for a while now. It's specific, and it leaves absolutely no room for guessing what the U.S. wants. And here's just a taste of what's on that list. And let me tell you, these demands are tough. We're talking about a complete halt to their nuclear program, an end to ballistic missile development, and cutting off support for all their proxy groups across the Middle East, from Hezbollah to the Houthis. For the U.S., these are the absolute red lines.
But you know what's really interesting? It's what's not on this list. The source we're looking at makes a big point of this. The U.S. plan never actually calls for regime change. So while the demands are incredibly strict, they're all about changing Iran's behavior, not overthrowing the government. It's basically a path for the current regime to stay in power, just in a much, much less threatening form. So where does that leave us? You've got one side that's crystal clear and another that's in total chaos. How in the world do you even start to negotiate? Well, it all comes down to a really high-stakes gamble, a leap of faith, and taking a very, very close look at the scoreboard. This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If Iran's leadership is in a 3-way tug of war, who's actually winning? Who do you bet on? To figure that out, the source suggests we just look at the facts on the ground. Take a look at this number, 92%. Just let that sink in for a second. What do you think that represents? According to the source, that's the percentage of Iran's navy that has reportedly been destroyed. That is a staggering figure, and it points to a massive weakening of Iran's conventional military. That is a huge point on the scoreboard. So when you start to tally up the points on this scoreboard, a clearer picture starts to form. Militarily, Iran has taken a huge hit. Diplomatically, its own neighbors are starting to push back, especially when it comes to controlling the Strait of Hormuz. The argument here is that the hardliners are losing their footing, which might just make the dealmakers a more realistic partner for the U.S. to talk to.
So, at the end of the day, the entire U.S. strategy is a bet. It's a huge bet that all this pressure is working, that the hardliners are losing their grip, and that the faction that actually wants peace will eventually come out on top. In a way, the U.S. isn't really negotiating with the Iran of today, but with the Iran they hope will emerge from this internal fight. And that brings us right to the fundamental question at the heart of this entire situation. It's a dilemma that's bigger than just politics. It really gets to the nature of trust and conflict itself. When one side is speaking with three different voices, how do you know which one to listen to? And how can you possibly build a lasting peace on such incredibly shaky ground?